Hi, good morning. Thanks for watching this show. This going to be very interesting. It's really along the line of what I've been teaching all along. And just the name of the show kind of gives it away a little bit. The French Don't Eat diet plan. That really was written many years ago when we we're telling people that for 40 years, the American Heart Association, the government, CDC, NIH, Ansel Keys told the American people that fat was your enemy, and they recommended that we drop the amount of fat that we're eating and substituted and recommended carbohydrates and sugary foods. And industry followed that line because that was recommended. But what happened since 1980 to America, many people became overweight, some became obese, and they developed the secondary diseases of diabetes and heart attacks and strokes and increased rates of cancer. It's an epidemic. Ebola or the Ezekiel virus, that's what's killing us. 5 or 10 deaths. We're having 1.5 million heart attacks a year. A good 500,000 of those die. And most of these are complications of vascular disease, diabetes, and sugar. Sugar is the booger. Sugar is the hooker. So, but the French, we all know they were eating differently than us, but yet you're thin. But it's not just the food. I mean, it's more to that. They exercise a little more. They walk a little more. Maybe their portions are a little bit smaller. But the one thing that is really characteristic of them, they eat a lot more fatty food and less sugar. And let's explore this a little bit and go on this trip together. And what's interesting about this kind of works into that finally government recommendations are coming a little closer to being correct. Although American Diabetic Association is still telling us to eat a low-fat diet. I mean, there are good fats and bad fats, but we need to get on board. And Mark Hyman, a very well-known author, Daniel Plan, Mark Hyman, every famous book he's read, and if it's good, endorsed it. So he's well-known. I know him personally. Wrote a book called Eat Fat, Get Thin. Right at this line, what is he saying? And it depends a little bit. If you're way overweight, eating a lot of fatty foods, that's 9 calories per gram. It could be difficult to separate the good and the bad fats. This is an excellent book also to read. But the main book I'm referring to today is the French Don't Eat Diet Plan by Dr. Will Clower. I encourage you to read this book. And what's it really saying? We've got to find out what is real food. The French eat real food. They have a lot of markets. We're starting to have Whole Foods, fresh markets, some other businesses now that are beginning to offer good food. Some restaurants do, but it's still a bit of a problem. But many businesses coming along now, though, that keep this in mind. So what I'm saying is forget false food. It has to be real food. I gave a show previously on the Dorito effect. The chemicals are so good now that they have developed that most of the foods that we're eating is not what you think it is. They've developed chemicals that can produce any color, that can produce any aroma or smell and any taste. Just a chemical spray. Just a chemical spray. When they, from California, they ship apples over here, they pick them green. They don't have the vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals in them. They inject them with nitrates to preserve them, and then a coloring chemical to make it look, just beautiful at the store. So you need to read, is it organic? If it's not organic, you don't buy it because you don't want those chemicals in your body. So that's, in essence, that's the Dorito effect. There's a book out by that name. That's an excellent book to read too. So if you eat food, what I recommend in general, which is eat foods of color 80% of the time, 20-30% organic meat, walk a half hour a day, you're going to live to be 100. It's not difficult. And that's not a diet. Did I say diet? Did I say limit the amount? No, especially this book, about every 10 pages, the doctor says in there, don't diet. Eat the right food. You'll be very healthy. You'll be thin. The interesting is, Dr. David Katz wrote a book, Disease Proof Your Life. 93% of vascular disease, of type 2 diabetes, with its horrible complications of blindness and cancer and heart attacks and strokes and arthritis and dementia and memory loss, can be avoided by eating the right food. Because you avoid diabetes, you avoid its complications. Right on the cover of his book. Great book also to read. And the beauty is that 90% of the diseases that we treat today can be prevented, stopped, and reversed. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Yet, the medical community, the medical school, they don't teach it. 2 hours of nutrition and 4 years of med school. Shameful, shameful, shameful. But that's why I'm here today as a doctor, to try to change that. So we need to eat high quality natural food. Foods of color, you can add mushrooms and onions, which don't have color, but are full of phytochemicals. That runs the enzymatic activity of your body and is very healthy. And but how do you recognize false food? In the French use the word F-A-U-X for false food. Okay, how do you recognize it? It's difficult. Take bread, for example. They can, with sprays and chemicals, make French bread out of chemicals and make it look real. Yeah, because the French, as you know, we eat a lot of biscuits in the morning for breakfast. But look at the label. Look at the label, if that's possible, when you buy it. You know, if it's made from flour, water, and then that has 3 or 4 ingredients in it, then it's healthy. But if it has about 37 chemicals, it's unhealthy. And you can make these breads at home. Ezekiel bread is a good bread. It's sprouted. You can buy it in any frozen section, almost any market. It still has the vitamins, the minerals. It's a little bit heavier like it should be. And it's a healthy bread in case you feel like I just got to have some bread, but all I see is white bread. Well, what's white bread? Nothing but sugar. All the nutrients have been removed. That's a false bread, okay? The real breads, like in Greece, say 20 years ago, a loaf of bread weighed 5 pounds. Yeah. Now, what kind of bread? 1/4 pound? I mean, it's interesting. So check the ingredients. Natural, it can fool you what's in them. Like chicken McNuggets, for example, has in it 29 ingredients, I think it is. Yeah, it's amazing. So you got to know what are you feeding, and the chemicals in their sprays they add to make it smell right, to make it taste like chicken. When in reality, it may not be much chicken in there. It's chemical. It's chemical. And so read the labels. Know how much trans fats in there. See, they're good and bad fats. Okay, the good fats are the omega-3 fats. The bad fats are omega-6 fats. And then they discovered trans fats, where they took oils from plants, hydrogenized them, one hydrogen atom, heated them, and that turned that into hydrogenated fats, and that's how they made margarine. And those are trans fats, and they increase your cholesterol and decrease your good cholesterol, the HDL. And they're very unhealthy. So you got to read the label. You got to, on the label, see if there's high fructose corn syrup, where the Japanese discovered an enzyme into a corn and changed it with this enzyme that made it much cheaper. But the fructose corn syrup is metabolized in the liver, makes fatty liver, and makes the bad cholesterol and triglycerides, causes atherosclerosis. So you don't want that. You don't want that. So you got to read the label. So the type of fat is a fructose corn syrup. Sugar has 50 different names, so that's a lot tougher. But you have to learn those. They're in books, and you can get them on the internet. Agave, or the different names: glucose, fructose, dextrose, many different names. So many foods that you're looking at are fake foods. They're fakes. They're not what they are because of the chemicals. And animals can tell the difference. You won't believe it or not, but yeah, if you know me, you'd believe it. I have a woodchuck living under my house. I saw him today. He'd eat a fresh vegetable. If I were to bring him a non-organic apple, because a good sense of smell, he smells the chemicals, he wouldn't touch it. But he says organic on the apple, he'll eat it. I've demonstrated to my friends. Okay, and so check to see if the ingredients are real. And bread should have flour, salt, water, and yeast, and that's it. Many of the breads you buy today have about 35 ingredients. A lot of them are fake ingredients. They're not good for you. All those chemicals have to be metabolized in your liver. That's what breaks up bad chemicals. The livers get strained, forms fatty liver. Fatty liver is very dangerous. So again, look for where there's fructose in there, hydrogenated oils, trans fats, and the good fats are the omega-3s, alpha-linolenic acid. Every leaf in the universe has in it alpha-linolenic acid because it picks up the energy from the sun through photosynthesis. So we need some fat. Our body's communicating system, millions of years ago, where animals didn't have a heart and a lung, they communicated by these essential fats, the good fats, jumping from cell to cell. You get 70 trillion cells. We still do today, but we have heart and lungs too. But these still are necessary. These fats, omega-3 and 6s, jump from cell to cell, and they are the communicating system in our bodies that lead to good or bad health, depending which one of the fats you're eating. We all need some of the omega-6s too, the inflammatory fat. Our ratio in our body should be like 1 to 1, 1 to 2. We're eating the inflammatory diet we're eating is like 20 to 1. So we're unhealthy. Look at the nation. Look around you. Go to a restaurant. You go in a crowd and look at the size of people. And this is a judgment-free zone, but we have a very serious problem in this nation. 1 out of 2 people is pre-diabetic. 90% are misdiagnosed because they ran the wrong test. They check their blood sugar when they should have run the serum insulin. Also, you lose 5-10% of your body weight, and it's gone. So most of these illnesses are preventable, stoppable, reversible. Look at my YouTube TV shows. It's all on there. It's all on there. But in general, this information, we lack information. It is not taught at the med school level. Most providers don't know how to teach wellness, and it's critical. When you see a doctor, you should be asking, what are you eating? What type of diet are you eating? Are you exercising? And it shouldn't just be pill to the ill, which is a lot of medicine, unfortunately, today. So, but we need some fuel to keep our body going, and so nature designed that we're more likely to eat sweet things. So we're kind of hooked to sweets, all of us. I generally follow good health habits. I had to learn it. My dad had a deli in New York. You think I always knew it? No, I didn't. And even bacteria in your teeth like to eat sugar. So we need a certain amount of sugar, about 35 grams, 40 grams a day. We're eating about 150 pounds of sugar a year, and we're eating about 150 pounds of flour a year. And then fructose corn syrup. You can see how bad our nutrition is, how bad our nutrition is. And the chemicals fool our senses. But physically, we do need food. We're in essence running our body on food that through evolution is not compatible with our genetic structure. Okay? There's biomathematics in food. Yeah, Fibonacci numbers in food. But what we're eating is not compatible with our body, and our bodies are revolting with heart disease, strokes, inflammation, increased rates of cancer, and all this can be avoided. And a lot of foods have in them 50, 60 different chemicals. They checked the blood of some infants, and it found that 200 strange chemicals in their umbilical cord, chemicals that should not be in there, is because the mother and father before conception were either smoking or drinking or eating the wrong food. And when the fertilization occurred, the infant took in the changed genetic structure of the parents, and when they're born, some are pre-diabetic when they're born. Yeah. The latest series thinking that people become diabetes at 30 or 40, it really started in the uterus, and actually started before conception because the mother and father were smoking, drinking, or eating the wrong food, which through epigenetics affected the genetic structure of the infant. Isn't that interesting? So what are we eating most of the time? Inventions. So you go to a restaurant or you go shopping, make sure it's real food. It should be, generally should be foods without a label, fresh, organic food. And we won't have chemicals in it. But we need to eat some food that has been processed a bit, so read the labels. Find out how much sugar is in there, how much fat is in there, how much hydrogenated oils in there. Remember, sugars have 50 different names. They can fool you. And if they say it's natural, that doesn't mean a lot, because there's certain laws they can call things natural even if they're not. That's especially so in restaurants. You got to watch it. Is it really natural, or is this just a phony statement? And as I mentioned, fructose corn syrup was invented around 1970, and that's been placed in almost and it helps preserve food. It's as long as trans fats. I, for example, accidentally was given some chicken McNuggets, and I drove to Ohio thinking there was coffee in the thing, and it wasn't. I opened it up. So what to do now? My coffee wasn't there, the nuggets were there, so I put it in my backyard. No one ate them. No one ate them. My woodchuck wouldn't eat it because it wasn't a vegetable, and then a raccoon wouldn't even eat it. Well, why? All the chemicals in there, all the chemicals. That's a true story. So don't eat inventions, okay? And these hydrogenated trans fats oils, where we took vegetable oils, hydrogenated them, heated them, are very dangerous. Olive oil is much healthier, but a tablespoonful of that, it's 100% fat. So you're trying to lose weight. To put a lot of olive oil as a salad dressing isn't a good idea, although it's a good fat, so omega-3 fat, you're going to gain weight with that. But you use a limited amount, I think is a darn good idea. It's a healthy fat. So now if you decide, I want to change, I want to, because this is consistent with what the French were teaching 30, 40 years ago, is what's becoming mainstream now, but slowly. The American Diabetic Association, the American Heart Association, they're not screaming it off their out loud and say, hey, you know, fat ain't bad, and sugar is the booger. They ain't screaming. They're not screaming it. I reviewed the American Diabetic Association recommendations to get rid of diabetes, 800 pages long, 3 times. I got them printed out. Never met another person to ever read them all. And they're still saying fat is the problem. It's sugar is the problem. And so it's important to gain information. I've got 200 YouTube shows on cashmanhealth.com on you can look at for free to get fully educated about good nutrition. So if you decide I'm going to change, I get to diabetes, or I'm a bit overweight, I don't want to get diabetes, clean out the kitchen, look at everything, and see how much. Look at the labels, and whether you eat the fruit, not the fruit tarts, okay, and eat the cheese, but not the cheddar goldfish, okay, and look at all the labels, and the French eat a significant amount of cheese, but you know, it's small portions. Cheese is 80% fat. If you get it from Belgium, you get it from France, generally it's a healthy fat, but they don't eat a pound of it. Okay, you got to keep that in mind because it's calorie dense, but it makes a good snack. We'll talk about snacks a little more later. So take a garbage bag and throw things out. Clean out the kitchen, and everything that has hydrogenated oils, trans fats, fructose corn syrup, throw it away. Odds on an animal out there won't eat it. You may need to put it in the garbage. And everything artificial. It also have dyes on it. Red number 4, yellow number 6, blue number 1. They're all chemicals. Your liver has to detoxify it. Very unhealthy. Get rid of it. Look at the sodium. You know, you don't want to take more than 1,500, 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. So look at the labels. I've had some bean soup recently. My wife made me, and my blood pressure shot sky high. So I went back and looked at the cans of beans, and it was full of sodium, And I think we made a mistake. The cook made a mistake as to what a portion is. It wasn't the whole can that had about 300 milligrams of sodium. It was a portion. So when you took those 8 cans, can you imagine the sodium I had? My blood pressure went boom, but it's not usually normal. Got to read labels. We took a good lesson in labels that day. And throw out pie crust, microwave dinners, frozen bagels, French fries, tortilla, low-fat yogurt, frozen pizzas, all full of sugar, bad fats, hydrogenated oils, if you want to eat this way, which I recommend. To me, it's not just the French way, it's Rudy's way and other people's way. So artificial sweeteners, goodbye. Even stevia, you know, of the sweeteners, the reason I would not use sweeteners if you decide I don't want sugar, I'm going to use sweeteners, is that they tell your brain because it's sweeter than regular sugar, the next thing you want will be sugary food. I know someone close to me that uses stevia a lot in a drink that necessarily I wouldn't drink. I mean, the healthy thing to drink is water with lemon and lime. These sugary drinks have fructose corn syrup and lead to bad health. Even if they don't have that in them and they add some coloring to it, your liver has to detoxify and get to work to get rid of the coloring. Okay? You know, the interesting thing is, I'm trying to get you to realize that fat is not the bad guy. You just got to select whether it's good or bad fat. Sugar is the bad guy. Okay? They now found out is sugar, high sugar dyes, carbohydrates, for example, that is what drives the triglycerides in your blood. It's not the fat. Triglyceride is a fat, okay? And that's what causes heart disease, atherosclerosis. That's what causes diabetes, because it goes on these receptors in your 70 trillion cells, and insulin cannot get sugar into the cell for energy because of the high triglycerides. But what makes the triglycerides? Sugar, not fat. You might think, oh, the cholesterol theory is being thrown out. High cholesterol doesn't mean a lot. It's the very low cholesterol, the low VLDL, the number of your VLDL, the size of VLDL, that is what decides whether you have atherosclerosis. The big LDL is just a beach ball floating through your arteries, and it's very little meaning, although they'll want to give you, cholesterol, different things for it. It's complex, but first thing to go to is try to eat well before grabbing a pill unless it's an emergency. You know, they showed in the Eskimos decades ago, in the last century, 2 gentlemen from Norway. One went to Alaska, studied the Eskimos. They found they eating 70% fat diet, but got no heart disease. And what it was is that we did not know there are many different types of fats, which soon thereafter were discovered through gas chromatography. Then we start feeding them American food because they're eating so much fat. And at that time, the theory put out by the American Heart Association that fat was the booger, which was wrong. We Americans responded, gave them American food, and guess what happened? They all got sick, developed heart disease, strokes, and everything else when they didn't have it before. Although they were overweight, it was the good fats. They had good fats. This is a true story. And after that, we started discovering the different types of fats. So it was a big lie. American Heart Association, NIH, CDC, Ansel Keys, Monroe Commission, the government, all told us fat is the problem, and they told us that for 40 years. Meanwhile, and to eat more sugary products instead, industry responded. A lot of money passed to our congressmen to influence them. Big pharma started writing all these medicines you had to take to avoid vascular disease, to treat vascular disease. Procedures went up. So this is a huge, it was just a matter of fact in the New York Times, barely a few weeks ago, an endocrinologist from New Jersey wrote in and accused the pharmaceutical industry for being a fraud because they fixed the price of insulin in essence. Yeah, 3 companies, Eli Lilly, Alpha Novo, and Sanofi from France, always seem to change the medicine a little bit, so they do not have to call it generic, so the price might go down. In Europe, insulin costs 1/7 what it costs here. A good 50% of the people in this country who need to take insulin, it's $400 a vial, when it could be a lot lower. It used to be like $10 years ago, and the insulin hasn't changed that much. And they'll claim we need it for research. Okay, you do some research. They spend only 1% of the money, billions, we're talking about billions, maybe 20 billion, 1% of research. That's it. It's a scam. I don't mind saying it. It's a scam. We have a pharmaceutical scam going on, and I'm afraid to say that maybe medicine is involved in here a little bit, because diabetes could be prevented, stopped, reversed through proper lifestyle teaching. We need to do it big time. That's what I'm trying to do. That causes 90% of our diseases. It's not Ebola or some mosquito that's killing us. It's diabetes and its complications that's killing us. So food is medicine if you take the right food. You've heard of that. Hippocrates said that. But yet, about 100 to 200,000 people a year die from medications. Yeah, a lot of them could be avoided. That's very well known. So pills are for sick people, but if nothing else works, okay. So food is medicine. Hippocrates said that, so eat nothing that has a mother or a face. Bad fish we're talking about there, because we're going to recommend fish, but it should not be raised in the pond. It should be raised in the ocean. I'm going to discuss that. Read a book. What about milk? And my friend Dr. Rule, a pediatrician down, he calls milk liquid meat. They're good meats, but a lot of meat has been raised in careful farms where they use herbicides and pesticides and then hormones. Milk, for example, you know what they do to increase the yield of milk? They put the cow in a cage, then they feed it hormones, 24 of them, and they're excrements. They don't remove them. They add herbicides, pesticides, and keep them in a cage. And the amount of milk they produce goes up 10 times, especially since they give them hormones. Well, then your kid drinks the milk, and then you wonder why your girl is starting to menstruate when she's 8 years old, because the estrogen, and then it's the length of time that she's exposed to estrogen, which increases her breast cancer rate. Yes, breast cancer rates are related to the length of estrogen in the body. Eat Keon. Whitewash is the name of the book. I'm not going to tell you here not to drink milk, but once you read that book, if you do, I'll be surprised. The best milk, mother's milk. Till age 2, a child should have mother's milk. And that's the healthiest. They have the biggest brain, because the brain is mostly fat. Yeah, your brain is only fat. Yeah. No wonder where concussion could damage your brain. You get the point. So also avoid false drinks with sugar in them, with chemicals in them. They account for a good 50% of the obesity epidemic. So read the labels. Read the labels of your yogurt too. You can be fooled as to what's in a drink. If you find kids, for example, they all want this little drink like I saw at the tennis club, and this educated mother. So the kids seem to love this thing because it had fruits on it and all kind of thing. I turned the thing over and read it. It had 30 grams of sugar in it. No wonder they like it, okay? No wonder they like it. Always look for the names of sugar if people seem to love it, because through evolution, we want sugar to live. So even myself, who's resistant to most foods, if there's a donut at home laying in the kitchen and I've had a stressful day, I'm going to eat it. I guarantee it. And I get pretty good resistance, okay? So we, through evolution, want to grab sugar. But it can be controlled. You can detox a bit. But to get rid of that totally, no. We need some to eat. We need some fat to eat. So I also will recommend, and you don't need supplements. Maybe little fish oil if you want. But if you've eaten fish twice a week, you don't need that. You can get omega-3, the good fats, from eating nuts, for example. Guacamole, different things have nuts in them. Eat the good fats. If the fats from nature, it's healthy. Guacamole, olives, for example, nuts, those are the good fats. Those are good fats that lead to good health. You look good, the skin will look good. It's not sugar, it will not increase your insulin level. And you know, if you're way overweight, to eat a lot of even fats from vegetables, they're calorie dense, so you want to kind of limit that a little bit. But some fats are essential. You need them. Those omega-3, so some olives, some guacamole, fat from nature is healthy versus from animal meats, because you're getting chemicals and pesticides and herbicides raised in the fish pond where they gave them genetically modified corn to eat, and they fatten up the fish and then you eat it. I understand now 90% of the fish you get in a restaurant comes from a farm, not the ocean. Always ask the waiter, where's it from? I do. I'm going to eat at a restaurant tonight at 7 o'clock, and I've asked them before, and their salmon comes from a pond. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to eat tonight, and this place has mainly fish, so I'm going to eat some organic chicken. I hope it's organic. I've been thinking about that this morning, but I'm going there because this other couple, wants to go there. But I remember having a conversation with the owner of the restaurant. He didn't appreciate the question, but most of them do. Most of them do. Restaurants will change. If we keep on demanding good food, they will change because they like to make money. Matter of fact, you went to some fast food restaurants. We ask for fruit every day. What do you think they'll be selling next week? They're not silly. So we're part of this equation. You can't just blame the restaurants. We're part of it. If we asked for good food, they'd be having it. And some restaurants are changing. I wish most restaurants would just give at least 20% of the food be very healthy, than that I won't ask any questions anymore. Okay. I know one place has Scottish salmon, but when I really checked into it, it's from a fish pond that has many nasty chemicals in it. They add to it and fatty corn, which has been genetically modified. If you try to eat the corn from Iowa or the whole down state, you wouldn't be able to eat it. It's been genetically changed to increase the yield. Yeah, it's not compatible with human health. They grow that to sell to concentrated animal feeding organizations like in Kansas City, although I found some on Highway 6, but like what I was saying, and to make the animals grow. In the last 150 days, they'll take the beef, typical beef, they'll first grass feed it 6 months, then they put them in a cage, about 10 of them, they teach them how to eat corn, genetically modified corn. They'll last 150 days and put in a cage. They don't remove the excrements, and they put hormones and pesticides and herbicides, and then they have a trough going by feeding them fatty corn, for example. Whatever, chicken litter sometimes is full of fat. They'll feed it to that, even to cows, and then you eat it. But what you eat is not just the animal, it's what the animal ate, because it's in their muscles. It's in their, what you're eating. It's in your eating. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So what is good health from? To eat foods of color, we mentioned that because it's full of vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, and they are the symphony, the orchestra, the mosaic of interaction leads to good health. Leads to good health. Eat foods of green, like my suit, okay? Wearing a red one next time. Dr. Furman wrote the book Eat to Live, End of Vascular Disease, End of Diabetes, End of Disease. That's Dr. Furman, my friend from out east. You see him in Dr. Oz show a lot. Just came out with another book, End of Vascular Disease. He'll say health equals calories divided by nutrients, the number of nutrients. Or calories into nutrients, depending in that. So the amount of nutrients, how much nutrient-dense food you are eating determines your health. You can get rid of 90% of all diseases by eating right. And it's not diet. The word diet shouldn't even be on here. It shouldn't even be on here. It's a way of eating, type of food, the French type of food that they're eating. Dr. Furman doesn't recommend a diet. Dr. Hyman doesn't recommend a diet. I don't recommend a diet because the vitamins, the minerals, the phytochemicals in the food will turn your appetite off naturally. I know it. I proved that many times. I'm not into supplements. I know people that take 100 supplements. Totally ridiculous, because the isolated supplement will not work but if you take it in the mosaic of interaction of all the phytochemicals, minerals, then they work. Now, if you're at sea for a year and you didn't were not exposed to vitamin C, and you're going to get scurvy. That's different. There are a few isolated diseases, but the majority of things that we get, so we need to get our vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals through organic, fresh food. Certainly you can cook some of it, but that destroys some of it too. Fresh is the best. If you use a smoothie, which I do frequently through the week, that breaks down the chemical walls of the cellular structure of the plants and brings out all the beautiful vitamins and minerals out into the smoothie. So to have a smoothie for breakfast or any time on the way to work, very healthy thing to do. Very healthy thing to do, because what the machine does, like the Vitamix machine or Ninja, whatever you have, breaks up the cellular walls. It breaks up the fiber, and you are really getting a lot of nutrients. You want to get nutrients, try a smoothie. Juicing is fine too, except it concentrates the sugar a bit, and for a diabetic that wouldn't be good. But juicing is fine. Don't drink orange juice, eat the orange, because it has a fiber in it, and that is much healthier. I'll tell you a quick, easy weight loss story that I teach a lot. I just finished writing a book called Sitting Disease. It's on for sale on Amazon in 3 weeks. I'm not trying to sell books. I'm trying to give you information. And that's kind of interesting. Looking at food, for example, a quick way to lose weight. Let me tell you a quick way. Increase your activity of living. That's how I teach it. Figure out ways that you can use the stairs instead of the elevator, a treadmill disc, a stand-up desk, dance, walk the dog. Activity of living. Make a big list of that. Don't necessarily need to go to gym. I love gyms. I mean, ever since I opened my yoga studio, this town has exploded with yoga studios and exercise places. I love it. The trouble is, you know what percent of people exercise regularly? Although we spend $1 billion on these places, 3.5%. They follow them. And the place I work out regularly, which is a wonderful place, I go there 5 days a week because people are trying to get well. Many look unhealthy. But that's 20-30% of it, but only 10% do it regularly. So that proves my point. A selected group goes there, the 9,000 members, only 10% do it regularly, so you think it's going to have a huge effect on health? No. But to increase your activity of living, walking the dog, dancing, activity that's fun to you. I play pickleball, tennis. Those things are fun to me. And walk half hour in the morning and talk to the birds. I get a little more time now, and because I'm a wellness doctor and not neurosurgery anymore, so I have a little more time. And now I'm taking singing lessons, and I'm singing to the birds. That's a true story. I did this morning. And but so it's fun, you know what I mean? It's fun. This is a good thing to do. Maybe get some cookbooks and learn different ways of cooking. I did with truck drivers some, because they have sitting disease, sit there all day, and they're becoming ill. The government changed it now, so in May they have to pass this government test. And it's tough, but not that tough. But they sit there all day. But you know, I was thinking, boy, that's really peculiar to truck drivers, and I'm helping them. I'm going to help coach them. But you know, when I think about it, I just ate at a restaurant for breakfast this morning, and I look around. It's not just truck drivers. The rest of the people eating calorie-dense food, they drive too, okay? And they don't exercise. So to think that this truck driver is a special class of people who are very unhealthy, 90% overweight. Most of them have sitting disease. Teenagers are sitting 9 hours a day with their stuff. Yeah, 9 hours a day. We adults are watching too many ball games. How many hours are you sitting? Counting them. That's pretty important. We found that the active, if you sit 20 minutes, it turns out the triglyceride and the glucose enzyme, and it's done through the LPL enzyme, which is turned off, triglyceride, triglycerides and sugars are not metabolized about at a 50% rate if you sit more than 20 minutes. They found it through NASA research. It's called sitting disease. And that's part of the reason America is sick. America is sick. 1 out of 2 pre-diabetic, 90% don't know it. The easiest way then to increase your calorie burn at work, see if you can improve your activity at work. Stand-up desk, treadmill, park far away, walk around the floor, walk around the outside of the building if you have a chance. But then think of the thermic effect of food. If you eat a lot of fat, you only lose 4% of metabolism. We need some fat. I want you to eat some fat. And metabolism, we need some essential fats. You got to eat them. But don't take, olive oil and pour 1,000 calories over your salad, okay? You only use 4% metabolism. But if you eat vegetables and fruit, because of fiber, high water, and the mechanics of metabolizing, you will lose 50% of your calories. Wow! So if you want to be healthy, increase your activity of living, eat 70-80% vegetable and fruit diet, 20-30% organic meat, like the French recommend, organic meat, read the labels, where they come from. You're going to be healthy, probably live to be 100 without a lot of work, without a diet. I think this really mixes well together, really works well together. So we don't get caught up in supplements. Take 150. I have friends who constantly pay a lot of money on these supplements. They're not needing to eat right. They don't work. And some are unhealthy too. I know a person that uses a lot of supplements is very numb feet and legs. Well, there's a price to pay. One day you take a fall, not that strong, not getting younger. But learn about cooking. So with these truck drivers, I learned about using crock pots, for example. And I had coached a truck driver. I happened to see him at a place where I work out. And he said, "Doc, you remember me?" I said, "Geez, no, I don't." He said, "Well, you talked to me a year ago. I'm from California. I'm driving a truck here with buffalo meat to New York, and I drop off some Fort Wayne." And he works out at Planet Fitness, a great place where I work out. And had his truck parked in the parking lot. And he says, "I'll show you something that you will remember." So he walked out to the truck, and I had measured the distance around the truck, and I told him to walk that 100 times, 4 times a day. That's 4 miles. And he got himself a crock pot. I didn't really know, although my wife uses, I didn't really know how it's great. So when he starts his day, he'll put his healthy meal in the crock pot, and when he arrives wherever he's going in 6, 8, 10 hours, it's cooked. It's a slow cooker. There are other types of cookers they're providing for truck drivers now, which I'm going to learn more about. And some of them have, in essence, apartments back there. So I'm going to provide CDs and DVDs for truckers to get healthy. But when I think about it, I thought it was so concentrated here on the truck driver. No, the rest of the people are the same way. Look around you in church. If you're 10% overweight, you're pre-diabetic. Most of them are undiagnosed. So it's not just them, it's all of society. Maybe a little more concentrated because they have to sit to drive the truck. But I encourage them to stop periodically and going to teach them an exercise program they can do in the truck, outside the truck. And I'm working on that kind of instinct. So watch out. So where you go shopping, try to go to some fresh markets or Whole Foods or actually a lot of the bigger stores, say like Kroger's, for example, they have in essence all the food that you would want, not as concentrated. And the outside is more the healthy food, and so if you start reading labels, you could about shop anywhere almost, because most places have. There's a place in town here at Spring Street. They really concentrate on organic food, but it's everywhere. I'm not going to pick any one place, although we have to complement some of these. There's a couple, one on DuPont, one on Coliseum. Different stores are concentrated on healthy food, but it's coming to the other bigger supermarkets too. Now let's talk about cheese a minute. I learned about specialty cheeses. Remember, the French eat some cheese. And they may have some with breakfast. It's a good snack. And they talk about when you say you're eating out, to try maybe number one is on the way there, make a plan. Make a plan. And occasionally, I know people that run very successful businesses that eat out lunch and dinner, and they're very unhealthy. They don't know it, or don't want to know it, or don't want to change, because I've talked to some of them, they don't want to change. And they're going to die 20 years younger. I guarantee it. They guarantee it. They're pre-diabetic or diabetic, and they just don't see it, okay? You can be in denial and delusion. It's up to you. I have nothing to gain except your health by doing here what I'm doing. But they'll have an end point when eating out. Like they like to, have some fun and laugh and look at the people, keep your mind busy, and maybe wait about 10 minutes before you took your last bite. And then they'll have maybe a piece of chocolate or some cheese or some nuts. And I was reading about this the other night, and I had not eaten lunch, and I played some tennis. You know what I did? I ate all three for dessert. I had some nuts. I had a piece of real cocoa, real chocolate. Actually, it's healthy for you. It has good fats in it. Cocoa, some chocolate, and I had some nuts too. And I bought some healthy cheese with no other ingredients in it. And it was a wonderful dessert. In the morning, I thought I would have gained weight. No, gained nothing. Interesting. Try it yourself. I'm not saying become a big-time cheese eater. Cheese, some people are addicted to cheese, yeah. But not like sugar. Sugar, much easier. And but you don't want to be eating donuts or pies for dessert. And there are good ice creams out there. You just got to read the labels that are and become educated about it a little bit. But there are fruit desserts. Even the popsicles, they can be made. And we spoke about breads already, whole grain, Ezekiel bread, fresh. It should smell fresh. And when you eat out, use your senses, the aroma, touch it, become mindful, look at it, and speak. And at home, if you have children and family, try to eat together. This leads in good family relations. And serve one portion at a time, not everything at once. Also, if you're eating out, don't eat like anything and then pour a whole bunch of drinks down. You'll turn it into a toilet. Don't do that. Eat slowly, each morsel. Try to taste the food. Oh, what does this taste like? And chew it up a bit. So slow eating. Don't use your mouth as a toilet with a lot of big glasses of wine. And stuff your mouth full of food. Try to slow it down if you can. We live in this fast society, but do the best that you can. When I was full-time neurosurgeon, that was a problem, but still I ate fairly good. And like I said, I didn't say be a vegetarian. I didn't say to be a vegan. Okay, maybe 70-80% don't even. Frankly, it could be 50% probably if you ate fresh food and carefully selected. The meats, for example, fish from the ocean, not from a pond. For example, organically raised beef, for example, raised on a farm, ate grass, for example, doesn't have pesticides, herbicides, and chemicals and cancer factors in it. And the bad reputation that some people eat meat 7 times a day, and you say, oh, it's the meat. Well, the thing they found is not just the meat. Many of them have bad habits. Maybe all of us do somewhat. Bad habits. They also smoke and they also drink. They eat in restaurants a lot. And so it's not just the meat. So you better have to become educated a little bit. This is not a vegan or vegetarian thing that I'm speaking about, okay? Some of the fish, too, the salmon you get, and oh boy, this nice pink salmon, you think this clearly is from the ocean. Don't let them fool you. They're injected with chemicals. Yeah, won't believe it. And the farm-raised salmon has 16 PCBs in them. Those are things that will cause cancer. So you have to know, where it came from. crab meat is a problem too. With crab meat anymore, they make it just from remnants of fish. So you got to ask them, where's the crab meat from? I noticed a difference when I was in the Navy in Norfolk during the Vietnam War. I ate real crab meat. Boy, that I look for all the time. That's hard to find. Have a crab meat cocktail. But I think what I'm probably eating when I eat it now and then here is phony stuff. And they make it from any unknown origin. I'm not generally hot for pork because I know what they do to pigs. Pigs are almost as intelligent as we are, and how they put them in a cage and take off I mean, it's unbelievable cruelty they do to pigs. So just from that standpoint, I don't eat pork. And although the French would eat a lean cut here and there, it's not that unhealthy. If you eat it maybe twice a week, a lean cut piece. But once you knew what they do to a pig to put it on your plate, I don't think you'd eat it. That show that Oprah did on the pig too, I forget the name of the show, but I watched 5 minutes of it and I just turned it off. It's when they cut it off the mothers to slaughter and the little kids were saying, "Oh, mommy's going on vacation." That was ended for me. It's actually a funny movie in the end, but I couldn't take it. So that's just me. But you got to consider, what do they do to this animal for me to eat? Okay, there are other ways of eating. And and chicken, make sure it's organic. If you read the book, The Dorito Effect, they really researched the history of chicken, and it's tasteless. I know at a restaurant that I go to that's a little more fatty than I like, but I stop there occasionally after tennis because I really like their chicken with shrimp. But when I took off the breadcrumbs and get rid of the sauce, it was so bland, it was unedible. That's the way chicken is today. So buy organic chicken, so it tastes like chicken. So it tastes like chicken without having the chemicals on it. What I was eating is chemical chicken. Yeah, it's a true story. True story. I took all the sauces off of there, and it was so bland. It was like eating cardboard. But chicken in general can be a good meat. You can go to markets and they'll dice it for you. They'll little chunks and big chunks and cook the chicken, partially prepare the chicken for you to help speed things up, and it's a good way to eat. But try to have it be an organic prepared chicken. No artificial ingredients. Bacon is a problem because there's nitrates in it, a lot of sodium in it, unhealthy. But if you had 2 pieces of bacon twice a week, I mean, I don't think much is going to happen if you're in pretty good health. But keep that in mind, bacon's not a freebie. And a lot of them have nitrates which they use as a preservative in them, which can cause cancer, okay? And I already told you about milk. Read that book, Whitewash by Keon. But milk products have in them bovine growth factors, IGF-1s, which cause cancer, diabetes. So milk's not a health food. A child does not eat milk. You can get all the calcium you want, much better from vegetables, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. They all got calcium in it. You don't need to drink milk to get calcium. That's something industry has sold. In matter of fact, Dr. Rule, the pediatrician, excellent preventative pediatrician, is excellent, who practices what he preaches to children. Calls milk liquid meat, milk, and he says type 1 diabetes rate has doubled and tripled because people are milk drinkers. He has noticed that in his practice. The rate of type 2 diabetes is going way up too in his practice in children. Kind of very interesting. Butter, real fat can actually be healthy, but it's calorie dense, so you have to watch how much. Certainly don't use margarine because trans fats in them. Egg whites shouldn't be used. They're full of sodium. Read the real egg. Eggs have been rehabilitated, not 10 a week, half a dozen or so. There's choline in the yolk and A and C vitamins, and the good vitamins in there. So eggs are not out. But don't necessarily fry them or lightly or saute them, poach them. And eggs are actually have good proteins in them. So I already told you about the end point that the French, the cocoa, for example, the chocolate and some nuts, or some fresh fruit, and be mindful of your eating. Pay attention. Look at the food. Have a plan before you go to the restaurant. Okay? The French called it enders, and I thought that's a nice way to look at it. So it's not called no dessert, for example. So in summary, what am I saying? I think fat has been rehabilitated. Mark Hyman's book, a good book to read. I use it in my teaching. Remember the story about sitting disease? Maybe read my book coming out in about 2 or 3 weeks, because that's the easy way to lose weight and be healthy without a big deal. No diet. In this great book by Will Clower on the French way of eating, he must say no diet. I bet he's got it written in there 50 times. And this is what I'm saying, because diets don't work. It reduces your basic metabolic rate, and when you get tired of that plan, and then you start eating again, the basic metabolic rate doesn't come back up, and you explode in obesity. And being overweight, 5 to 8% overweight, is a judgment-free zone. Okay, leads to diabetes a good 75% of the time. The other skinny fat people who are thin, but their blood work is off, and they get diabetes anyway. So check your blood work. I personally, this is radical, think we should check our blood work starting at age 1 every single year to catch people on the path to diabetes. If we can realize this early in the path, it takes very little to turn the path around. But we're diagnosing people in this country as stage 3, 4, 5 of 6 stages to diabetes. Print of Mark Hyman, How to Speak to Your Doctor, 40 pages free off the internet. He'll tell you what blood tests you should get. Critical. Another guy I like is Wes Youngberg from Salt Lake City, who I met at Hilton Head, 7-day Adventist. They're vegetarians. I didn't tell you to be a vegetarian, but he knows a lot. His book is called End of Diabetes. What I'm saying is, if you use Furman's books, my book, Hyman's book, diabetes type 2 can be prevented, stopped, reversed 90% of the time. Opportunity. We need to scream it off the rooftops. So I hope you learned something. Listen to me. We have about 200 other YouTube shows on CashmanHealth.com. You can be very educated for free. For free. And I think you'll be extremely healthy. Thanks for watching. Watch the other shows. I give 2 free lectures at Lutherans. You can go to CashmanHealth.com. It's on there. The dates. Say hello. Give me a hug. And we can have a discussion. Ask me questions. I love it. That's why I'm doing this. That's my benefit. And I've gotten a lot of people, they'll stop me and tell me, like the truck driver I talked about, his diabetes is gone. He weighs 210 now. So I love you. Namaste.